And I believe very strongly that the people of this country on Super Tuesday and after are going to support our campaign, because we are more than a campaign, we are a movement. We are a multi-generational movement. I'm the young person. We got some old people too. We are a multi-racial movement. And we are a movement of millions of people who demand economic justice in this country, demand social justice and the end of racism and all forms of discrimination, and who demand environmental justice as well. We are a movement of millions of people who are sick and tired of the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality in America. We are tired of a handful of billionaires controlling the economic and political life of this nation. And we will create an economy and a government that work for all of us, not just the 1%. And that is what this campaign is about. This campaign understands that in order to defeat Donald Trump, and we have to be very clear about it, can't mince words about it. In order to defeat Trump, we are going to need the largest voter turnout in the history of this country. And in my view, old-fashioned politics, the same old type of politics that doesn't excite anybody, that doesn't energize anybody, that is not going to be the campaign that beats Trump. In order to beat Trump, what we are going to have to do is speak to millions of working class people who today are working 2 or 3 jobs. They're worried about their kids. They're worried about their retirement. They can't afford health care. And they are saying, who cares about me? Who is worried about me? I've seen candidates run to billionaires' homes to raise money. Does anybody worry about me and my kids? And our job together is to reach out to those working people and say, you know what, we do care about you. Join us. Come on into our movement. And then we've got to reach out to the young people in this country. The young people in America today, and I'm proud to say this, they are the most progressive generation of young people in the history of this country. This is a generation that is strongly anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-homophobia, anti-religious bigotry. This is a generation that believes in the need to deal with the crisis of climate change. But this is also a generation that does not vote in the numbers that they need to vote. So our job, if we are going to beat Trump, is to say to those millions of young people, if you can't afford to go to college or you're leaving school deeply in debt, join us. If you are worried about the future of this planet and climate change, join us. If you are earning less money, as the younger generation is, than your parents, and you think you are entitled to a decent standard of living, join us. If you're sick and tired of trying to pay off your student debt, join us. So our job is to grow the voter turnout in America. I can't do it alone. I need every one of you to reach out to your friends. And when your friends moan and groan about this and they moan and groan about that, tell them complaining is not good enough. They've got to get into the political process, stand up and fight for justice. Now, in case you haven't noticed, the political and economic establishment of this country, they're getting very nervous about our campaign. Just read an article the other day that the lobbyists for the military-industrial complex, they're very worried. They're worried that we may not continue spending more money on the military than the next 11 countries combined. They are worried that we're not going to allow military contractors to give us massive cost overruns. And they're very worried that we are not going to be involved in endless wars. And they are right to be worried. And it turns out the folks on Wall Street are getting worried as well. And they're worried that we're going to break up these very large banks that got us into an economic crisis 12 years ago. And you know what? They should be worried. And the drug companies, man, they are really worried. Because we are catching on to the reality that they are ripping off the American people in an unseemly way. That in some cases they are charging us 10 times more for the same exact drugs that they sell in other countries. And the insurance companies are getting just a little bit nervous because we are going to end the absurdity of the United States being the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people. It's a human right. Now, what the establishment is saying, what the lobbyists are saying and the political pundits are saying, everybody's saying, so Bernie Sanders can't beat Trump. Well, to those folks, I would suggest take a look at the last 70 national polls. Because we beat Trump 65 out of those 70 polls. Take a look at recent polls in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and other battleground states. We beat Trump. And we're going to beat Trump here in Virginia as well. And the reason that we are going to win is twofold. Number one, we have the strongest grassroots movement of any campaign in the modern history of this country. Our campaign has already knocked on millions of doors from Maine to California. And second of all, our grassroots campaign does not have a super PAC, and we don't want a super PAC. Because when you start taking money from billionaires and millionaires, what you end up doing is serving their needs. Our campaign, and I want everybody here to be really proud of this, we have received more campaign contributions from more Americans as of today than any campaign in the history of American politics. Our campaign receives its funding from the working class and middle class of this country. And we are proud to say, and I say this as a son of the American working class, this is a campaign of the working class, by the working class, and for the working class. For too long, the American people have looked at a government which receives candidates and members of the Senate and House who receive huge amounts of campaign contributions from the rich. And the result of that is we have not raised the minimum wage for 10 years, but we've given huge tax breaks to billionaires. The result of that is we have not dealt in any effective way with climate change, but we've given tens of billions of dollars in subsidies and tax breaks to the fossil fuel industry. It is time for a change. It is time to end corporate welfare in America. It is time to start paying attention to the working families of this country. And that is what our campaign is about. Our campaign says that if you're working 40 hours a week in America, you should not be living in poverty. We're going to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Our campaign says that women should not be earning 80 cents on the dollar compared to men. We believe in equal pay for equal work. And our campaign believes that at a time when millions of workers want to join unions, we should make it easier, not harder, for those workers to join unions. And our campaign believes that in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, our infrastructure should not be crumbling. People are entitled to good roads, good public transportation, a first-class rail system. And at a time when 500,000 people are homeless tonight, we can build 10 million units of low-income and affordable housing. What our campaign is about is asking people to think outside of the box and to ask questions that are not asked on television or in Congress. Questions like everybody here knows that education is so very important to all of us, to our place in the world, and to our ability to make it into the middle class. And yet, in the wealthiest country on earth, we have an educational system that is failing working families from coast to coast. And that is why we believe in universal, high-quality, affordable child care. Why we're going to triple funding for low-income Title I schools so that all kids, regardless of the zip code in which they live, get a quality education. And because we believe in education, we believe in teachers. Which is why we're going to fight to make sure that no teacher in America earns less than $60,000 a year. Which is why when we believe in education, we understand that we have got to rethink public education in America. It's no longer good enough for free public education to go from K through 12. We got to make public colleges and universities tuition-free. And when we think outside of the box, we ask some questions. We say, how come 12 years ago Congress was able to bail out the crooks on Wall Street who nearly destroyed our economy? How come at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, 2 years ago, Trump and his friends gave $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1% and large corporations like Amazon, which last year didn't pay a nickel in federal income tax? So it seems to me that if we can give tax breaks to billionaires and large corporations, you know what else we can do? We can cancel all student debt in America. And when we begin to think outside of the box and we ask questions that members of Congress don't, we ask a simple question. How does it happen that America today is the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right? How come we spend twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other country, and yet we got 87 million Americans uninsured or underinsured? How come we pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs? How does it happen that in America last year, at least, and this is a conservative number, at least 30,000 people died because they didn't get to a doctor when they should have because they had no health insurance? 30,000 people. And when you want to think about a cruel healthcare system, ask yourself, how does it happen that last year 500,000 people went bankrupt because of medically related debt? You know what that means? That means there are people all over this country who are struggling with cancer, with heart disease, with Alzheimer's, with other terrible diseases. They are fighting for their lives, and they go bankrupt because they cannot afford to pay outrageous medical bills. This is a cruel system. It is an incredibly wasteful and bureaucratic system, and it is a system that needs to change. Well over 100 years ago, when Teddy Roosevelt was president of the United States, all the way up to Barack Obama, presidents have talked about the need for universal health care. Well, in my view, the time for talk is over. The time for action is now. Let us stand together and tell the drug companies and the insurance companies that we will not tolerate them making $100 billion in profits when so many are uninsured and underinsured. Whether they like it or not, we will move to a Medicare for all single-payer program. And when we talk about the major issues facing this country, we cannot ignore the existential crisis of climate change. Now, I wish I could tell you, don't worry about it, we'll build a few more solar panels here and a few more wind turbines there, but that would not be honest. What the scientists are now telling us is that the climate change crisis is much worse than they had previously anticipated. Polar ice caps are melting at a faster rate. Oceans are warming at a faster rate. Seas are rising at a faster rate. We are seeing more drought, more extreme weather disturbances. And what the United Nations is telling us is that if we don't get our act together by the end of the century, there will be hundreds of millions of climate refugees. people no longer able to stay in their communities because there's no water to drink, no land to grow their crops. Now is the time to tell the fossil fuel industry that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. Now is the time to move forward with a Green New Deal. A Green New Deal that will create up to 20 million good-paying jobs as we transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And when we talk about issues that have got to be dealt with, it cannot be swept under the rug, we have got to acknowledge that today we have a broken and racist criminal justice system. This is America. We should not have more people in jail than any other country on earth, including China. What we will do together is invest heavily in job training and education for our young people, not more jails and incarceration. It costs less money to send a young person to the University of Virginia than to put them in jail. Let's send them to the University of Virginia. Together, we're going to end private prisons and detention centers. Because we don't believe that corporations should make profits locking up fellow Americans. And I'll tell you what else we're going to do. We're going to end the so-called war on drugs. Turns out, who knew this, but it turns out that through executive order, a president can legalize marijuana in every state in this country. But in addition to making marijuana legal in all the states, what we have got to do is expunge the records of those arrested for marijuana. And when we talk about broken systems, we need to undertake major reform of our immigration system. On day one, we will restore the legal status of the 1.8 million young people eligible for DACA. Under our administration, federal agents will never go about snatching babies from the arms of their mothers. And our administration will put together bipartisan legislation for comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. And when we talk about the issues that the American people are thinking about, there is horror all over this country about the level of gun violence that we see. So let me simply say this to you. We will bring about the most far-reaching gun safety legislation in the history of this country. Trump and the Republican leadership are intimidated by the NRA. Our administration will not be intimidated by the NRA. We will bring about universal background checks. We will end the gun show loophole. And we will do something that should have been done a long time ago, ban the sale and distribution of assault weapons in this country. Now, as a United States Senator, I have occasion to listen to a lot of speeches on the floor of the Senate from my right-wing Republican colleagues. And their mantra is that they believe in small government and getting the government off the backs of the American people. That's what they say. Well, I say to those hypocrites that if you believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people, understand that it is women who have a right to control their own bodies. Not the government. So to my right-wing Republican colleagues, don't tell me you believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people when you are telling every woman in America what she can or cannot do with her body. On Tuesday, here in Virginia and across this country, there are going to be enormously important primary elections. And I am here tonight to ask for your support. I am here tonight to ask you to bring your friends and family and colleagues to vote. We have got to change the political culture and mindset in this nation. We cannot continue to have the lowest voter turnout of almost any major country on earth. We need to have the highest voter turnout. We cannot sit back and complain. We have got to get active and vote. Now, if we can win here in Virginia, and with your help, I think we can, we stand a great chance to win the Democratic nomination. And if we win the Democratic nomination, we sure as heck, we're going to beat Donald Trump and beat him badly. Well, let me interrupt you and suggest that it's not Bernie, it is us, all of us. Because as you know, what this campaign is about is us, not me. Because we are trying to change a nation so that all of us understand we are in it together. Every family in America, trust me, has its problems. And it is important that my family be there for your family be there for my family. We are in it together. We cannot turn our backs when other people are in pain. But us, not me, means something else. It means that we understand that no president alone can do what has to be done. We understand that real change in American history, whether it is the labor movement, the civil rights movement, the women's movement, the gay rights movement, the environmental movement, all those changes took place by millions of people standing up for justice. And that's where we are right now. We are the richest country in the history of the world, and we demand justice for all of our people. And whether Wall Street likes it or not, whether the insurance companies, the drug companies, the fossil fuel industry, the military industrial complex, whoever, whether they like it or not, we are going to create an economy and a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. So let us go forward together. Let's win on Tuesday. Let us win the Democratic nomination. Let us defeat Trump. Let us transform this country. Thank you all very much.